Hey guys, long time no see. I dyed my hair black. But anyways, I'm here to you from Osaka. I'm so glad that I actually got to go here because I have been living in Japan for like over a year. This is my second year living here. Like the most west that I went out was to my dorm and then maybe to like Takao-san. That was it. Now initially, we were supposed to have like this whole circle route hitting like Arashiyama, Kinkakuji, Gion, go through like downtown, but that's not happening because that's just like not realistic and that is so much walking, and yesterday we kind of died with the amount of walking that we did. First we're gonna get breakfast and then we'll be off.
Breakfast was the same bakery as in my last video, but this time I tried this pastry that was like if you took Earl Grey cookie batter and poured it all over a chocolate croissant, it would be this concoction. It was pretty good, but honestly, that was like a lot to process. I can't even lie. And I just got a plain latte. But speaking of lattes, the three of us ended up getting some to go. I got an iced one though, so it counts as a little bit of variety. Now, this might sound like an exaggeration when I say this, but genuinely, this day was my second time ever using a bus in Japan, and probably my third time in general. I was the only one with the navigation on their phone, so I kind of had to lock in and, pay attention to the stops. But for some reason, the bus was so packed and everybody was going to the same shrine and the same bus stop.
We're on the way to the Kinkakuji temple.
Kinkakuji, not Kinkakuji. They're apparently two different things, but they're in the same general city, Kyoto, actually. We somehow avoided the crowd when we were walking, though. I don't know how we managed to do that. I'm honestly gonna be so real. This must have been a really weird time frame to visit Osaka or Kyoto because we went up to Kinkakuji and genuinely there was not as many people as I would have thought there would be. Getting the tickets took basically no time and we were able to get a pretty solid view. The only thing that you did have to wait for was like taking photos because there was a crowd, but I think that people would just kind of line up and then wait for the rows in front of them to go. Looking back at the footage, there's kind of a lot of people actually, but I think in the moment it felt like there wasn't as many because it wasn't as bad as Dotonbori. That street literally traumatized me. Oh my gosh, why was it like a sea of people? We walked from Kinkakuji to Ryoanji, which is another shrine kind of in the area. It was like a 30-minute walk. It wasn't too bad, but we were walking uphill alongside a random road for like a good chunk of it. At least the weather was really good and it wasn't terribly cold. The sun actually came out later in the day and it made all the colorful leaves look even brighter, which was pretty wild. This area had basically no one. I know I said the same thing about Kinkakuji, but genuinely it felt so peaceful, which I think is very fitting because the Ryoanji temple is kind of known as like the symbol of Zen. I don't think it was actually intended for that. I got this pamphlet that actually said that no one really knows the true original intent of the stone garden. I think you're just kind of meant to interpret it by yourself. And when I said that there weren't that many people, clearly I did not mean inside the shrine because there was such a crowd on the stairs. But honestly, I kind of get it. You had to take your shoes off before you entered the shrine area, so you got to just sit on like the wood and stare at the rocks. Make it sound really boring, but that's actually not the point. After the shrine visit, we were of course very hungry, so we set out to find food that was going to be along the path towards downtown Kyoto. Now, I'm going to be real, we tried to do this crazy trip around Kyoto where like we would also hit Gion, some of the more like central area, Toji Shrine, etc. This is not realistic. Do not do this. If you do this, you have to leave at 7 a.m. and by 7 p.m. you're gonna like hate everything around you. After we left Ryoanji Shrine, we walked down this street that was supposedly a shopping street. I don't know if this is like a Kyoto thing or like just a small town thing, but it wasn't even 4 p.m. and everything was closed. The only thing that was open was this little cafe that we almost missed, but it was like ran by these two older ladies. There was mismatched menu items, mismatched decor, so many little trinkets. That curry was so good. Oh my gosh. That curry literally saved me. After the quiet little meal, we continued our journey along these tiny little train tracks towards supposedly the downtown Kyoto area. Also, fun but not so fun fact, I actually did what everyone is scared of doing, and I fell through the gap between the train and the platform. It was a little rough. I was wearing white pants, and as I'm about to walk inside of the train, for some reason my foot entirely misses and it just goes inside the hole. So I did fall, and the only thing I remember was one moment I'm walking, the next I am clutching my camera to make sure that it doesn't break. Because of course, priorities. It was fine though. I was really mad because it was kind of embarrassing and it did have a stain on my pants for like the rest of the week. But you know, it's okay. At least I'm alive and at least I'm not in the hole, right? Anyways, we made it to what we thought was the downtown Kyoto area, but we walked for a while towards Kyoto Station. It was nice to just kind of walk around and see the city. There was apparently this little like festival, but I think that by the time we got there it was closing down because again, at 5 p.m. everything is closed at 5 p.m. I guess. Ended up walking around the bottom floors of the Kyoto Tower building to get like souvenirs and stuff. So it was really tiring. I was so glad to have finally gotten on the train home. We had dinner at this place, which I think might have been Korean barbecue. Everything is closed. We're very tired. I'm very tired, actually. But this place was so bizarre. They were playing like throwback, like 2010s pop music. It was so chill. We were probably like the only ones there for half the night. Shout out. And now comes the last day of my trip. Very sad, I know. But this was the day my mom and her friend were leaving to the airport, so after we had breakfast at, you guessed it, the same cafe, they went on their way to Kansai airport and I took myself and my little suitcase up to Kyoto. I was actually going to meet up with someone that I had met about a year ago in this timeline. And we met because I went to this live show where it was 2 days in a row. It was my favorite pop group that was performing. But after the show, I noticed this really long line that wasn't for the drinks. So I was really confused and I asked this lady in front of me and I was like, oh, like, excuse me, this is my first time at this show. Like, do you know what this line is for? And she was like, girl, actually I have like no idea. But then I think she told me that it was like for a handshake event where you basically meet the idols. Because the next day I went to the second day of the event and she recognized me and then she like called me over and introduced me to her friends, which was really sweet. I actually still see them at lives of like a different pop group, which is technically 5 of those guys formed a new group. Not the point though. The point is that we were gonna meet up for the first time and she doesn't speak English and guess who still doesn't speak Japanese? Me. I'm not gonna lie, this is probably the most intense Japanese practice I have had. She was really nice though because she would explain things if it looked like I was like, ah. But I think I understood like a solid portion of our conversations. Anyways, we met up and it took genuinely probably an hour to find a locker for my suitcase because for some reason, Kyoto Station had the largest amount of people I have ever seen in one area. Now, as I'd mentioned, I really wanted to see Toji Shrine, but unfortunately I hadn't had a chance to with my mom. Since it was pretty close to the station, that was our big like tourist attraction for the day. Just kind of walked around the perimeter and there's still some like shrine areas that you could see as well. I kind of got to see like the more quiet and like local side of Kyoto, which was really nice. Because at the end of the day, these temples are still used as like regular temples that people go to. After we got our dessert, my friend was kind enough to wait while I bought my ticket. See, I knew I had to go home that night because the following morning I had work and there's no way I could, like that's so last minute, that's so crazy. For some reason on all the display monitors and also on like the official like JR Shinkansen website, it said that all tickets past Nagoya were sold out. What business do I have in Nagoya? Thankfully though, somehow the cashier that I was with, he magically found me a seat by the window too, which was wild. But anyways, that was a wrap for my crazy day. And this is me very, very tired on my local train headed home. I really hope to come back to the Kansai region soon. And I know I mentioned it before, but possibly later this year. It's gonna be in fall again, but we'll see. I hope that you guys enjoyed and stay tuned for my next video.